Hello and welcome to the Emily Rassam Show. I am joined today by Dan Willcox, a Bob Ross certified instructor, and he is going to start off by telling us a little bit about his background and then how he got into painting.
For sure.
It's a good story.
Well, thanks, Emily. I'm excited to be here, and hello to your audience. Wow, where to start? If we're talking professionally speaking, I spent about 22 years in the financial services business. I was always pretty good at sales and just talking to people and enjoyed that sort of thing, but was living in Tennessee and started to listen to a guy you may have heard of named Dave Ramsey on the radio. And just what he talked about made a lot of sense to me. I had finished college with probably it was 14 or 15 credit cards that had balances on them and student loans, and done everything wrong since being a teenager with money. And that really made a lot of sense, and certainly didn't follow it perfectly by any means, but moved to Nashville and actually started working with one of Dave's business partners in one of those offices. So I was selling term life insurance and helping people with mutual funds is how I got into financial services back then. Moved back to Florida. I had spent most time in Florida. My dad was in the Air Force, but we'd lived in Florida 3 times. So I've always thought of Florida as home. So we moved back to Florida in 2000. Different things in life, and wound up leaving the buy term, or invest the difference kind of world, and went into big banking and wound up working at Wachovia Bank. If you remember before the, second or third time ago when the world ended, back in.
Yeah, that was my first bank account, Wachovia.
Wow, very cool.
I still have some of the checks, I think.
Well, write them. They're still good, right? No, just kidding. Don't do that.
I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, but through Wachovia, left them a short time to go manage for Regions Bank, and quickly returned, had a great relationship with my boss at Wachovia that then became Wells Fargo at that time. Banking changed a lot then, and it really quit being about being able to do what was right for the person across the desk from you, and really just had to try to sell them every product the bank had. And I was like, this is not okay with me. And I found a place inside Wells Fargo to go, and that was into the mortgage arm. So I started working at Wells Fargo Mortgage, helped hundreds of people refinance back during the TARP program and then HARP after that. And I was really good at it. I really enjoyed it. That kind of mortgage math, I don't know why, but I can do it in my head. It's just one of those things.
Right.
And left the big banking world with mortgage and managed a couple of mortgage offices here in Central Florida, one down near the Villages for a company out of Orlando, and loved working for those guys. But boy, the mortgage business can be tough. I had already brought a drinking problem with me. So adding that to the sales world and just the ups and downs of life, and that, boy, drinking was really a problem for me. And just after COVID and how easy the mortgage business was then, I hated it. It had just about killed me. I had spent 8 days in the hospital. In 2018, I was 110 pounds heavier than I am now. Drinking was a direct cause of all of those health issues I was having. And thankfully, not by my own doing, but there was definitely some divine intervention that took drinking out of my life. I very quickly started seeing that I didn't want to stay in the mortgage business. And my wife finally said, well, just quit. And I was like, are you serious? And she's like, yeah, if you hate it so much, quit. And just after COVID had let out, we had gone over to the beach to celebrate our anniversary. I was looking for things to do. We had watched a lot of Bob Ross's shows during COVID just because we weren't going to have the news on in the house.
Right.
Our 2 boys were used to homeschool anyway. We were doing Florida virtual before COVID started, so that was just kind of a comfortable shift for us. But we just didn't want the bad news and the chaos just in our world, and watched a lot of Bob shows during the pandemic. And then when we had gone over to the beach, I happened to look it up. You can take an art class by somebody who's a certified Bob Ross teacher. I'd never picked up a crayon. I hadn't doodle. I didn't paint. And so July of 2020, I took my first painting class. And when my brush touched that paint and then that to the canvas, I could just feel it. I could feel it inside me like electricity. It felt like the feeling I chased at the bottom of a bottle for so many years, in just filling the hole inside of me. And I absolutely loved it. Came home from that weekend, and I probably ordered $2,000 worth of painting stuff off the internet and the website and all of that. And I just started painting a lot. My first paintings at home were terrible, the ones I did by myself, but I just loved it. I got a couple of Bob's videos. I tried to paint along with him. I wound up taking classes over in New Smyrna Beach from Nick Hankins, who is the current VP of Bob Ross corporately, but a wonderful human being. He is the one who paints on the PBS show Joy of Painting today. Like, he's our modern day version of Bob Ross. And I just love Nick so much and learned so much from him. And I took the week 1 trainer class, and you get invited back to week 2 if you want to keep going. So I completed that training. And so I started teaching in September of 2022 when I completed that certification process. So I completed that. So I get to hold Bob Ross's name up and say, I'm a certified teacher. And that is how that works. So I teach a lot in the villages and here in Ocala. And there's some bad news in part of that story, or certainly my wife and I have 27 and a half years have divorced, unfortunately. And very unexpectedly, June of this past year, our youngest son had a freak medical thing in the middle of the night and has gone home to be with the Lord. And so, my world's been through, that's the worst I've ever been through in the last kind of 2 years of all that unfolding. And my art has certainly helped save my life, I think. I think being sober is a big part of that. And I think where I am in my own personal faith position and walking with my Creator and what I believe to be what I'm supposed to be doing makes today okay. There's hard stuff every day. I don't want to make light of any of that because I see a counselor regularly. I spent an hour with her this morning. I spend a lot of time with people at church for those kind of conversations, but that's kind of how I've gotten to today. So that's an awfully long answer to your question, but I hope I hit the highlights.
Okay. Well, now I can ask you some additional questions.
For sure.
So how do you feel, or how do you use your faith to get through tough times? Because there's a lot of people that go through tough times. And is there something you could say or that's very encouraging? Because I find that that's how I learn the most and grow, is by teaching others. And you're teaching art, and tell us a little bit about how your faith gets you through.
Well, I grew up going to church. Mom and dad, great parents. I've got a great older brother. So I didn't know a time not going to church because I'm the younger of the 2 boys. So as soon as I have memories, it's just what we did. But in that, church was only in my head. I could memorize the verses. I was good at the little Bible bowl things we do, youth group against youth group, kind of fun challenge stuff. Church never became a personal, in my heart and soul kind of thing. It was just sort of a thing we did. And I certainly didn't pursue church and faith and that sort of thing through college or my drinking time and just pursuing this, what I thought was going to be success and just chasing making money and thought that was going to be the answer to everything. Really until my marriage just was really, it was never abusive. We didn't scream and yell at each other, but silent treatment and eggshells or almost worse, I think. And that's really, we lived very lonely together life for a few years leading up to the separation and ultimately the divorce. And so I was working with a friend of mine who I used to refer all of our mortgage clients to for insurance, and quickly found out that one of the guys in the office and I live literally 5 minutes apart here in Ocala, and we were both driving almost an hour down to the villages every day. And we're like, well, at least we're going to carpool until we can talk Tim into letting us do this remote. And so when you spend an hour in the car each to and from work, you get to know people pretty quick. And he and I became great friends very, very quickly. And one day he just said, hey, you want to come to church with me and the fam on Sunday? And I said, yeah, I do. And so what do people call that? I've heard a word for that, friendship evangelism or something. That sounds so technical and packaged, but he was just inviting me to go to church with him. And that started really just opening my eyes to what I had just never experienced before. And so I had been baptized as a teenager, but boy, my behavior as a teenager did not support somebody that had a life change or was walking with a power greater than themselves, trying to live out my purpose in the world. My history doesn't reveal that at all. And so over the course of this last 2025, that changed a lot. I really started to plug in. I I'm very active in a recovery group. It's a 12-step program specifically for alcohol, and just finding out what's damaged inside of me. Because okay, I'm almost 52 years old, but inside of me there's a scared, broken little 6 or 7-year-old boy just afraid. And I think that's what's inside all of us. But we just learn to put up these walls. I put up walls and all these masks and all these other things, and so just learning to lay that down.
Love that.
Yeah.
It's really, I would call it divine intervention.
Yeah.
And do you think that, I personally am a huge believer in this, that we go through these things in life because it makes us better people and it teaches us how to be better mentors for other people? Do you find that that has been the case in your life?
100% yes. I would agree with you. There aren't many things I would absolutely stake everything I know on, but I absolutely believe that. And that's come up in my life over and over again, especially in these last couple of years. The difficult part of that for me is it is the strongest ships that are made for the biggest and roughest seas. They're not made to sit in a safe harbor. And, growing up in a military family, I saw that up close and personal. My dad was a navigator on some incredible planes and was involved in a lot of what our military is doing as we are having this conversation when he was active duty and doing those sorts of things. So I think those hard times are well, it's hard to say it, but they're a gift because it equips me better to help the next person who's suffering the same thing. Along the way, Lori and I did have a miscarriage. Gosh, that's been 17 years ago. And that's one kind of loss, especially she had some health issues, and thankfully those were behind her, and her oncologist and all the other doctors said, hey, other than the obvious, are y'all going to have more kids? So we thought, oh, wow, here comes our second child, our family's growing, and you lose that. That was one kind of losing a child or a family member. But then to lose Andrew last year as a 15-year-old, otherwise healthy, big, strong, 6'2", 250-pound, looked like a football player as he was growing to be one. We don't even have a word for that in our language. If you lose your spouse, you're a widow or a widower. Your parents die. Well, that's what happens. It's sad, but that's just the flow of life. And to be able to, there's not necessarily words that from my own struggles that I often bring, but I can bring a presence and a shoulder and say, yeah, I know this stinks, but I've walked it and I'll sit here next to you. So yes, I believe it 100%.
I think some of the most important things to be said are words left unsaid, and just having a presence and knowing that someone's there for you. And I love that. It's a strong testament. It's an important thing to do, even as a parent to your child. You just be there and don't have all the answers. And it's okay not to have all the answers. I think that's
and
really important.
It's okay to not be okay.
Yes. Yes.
It really is. I mean, there are some hard things we will endure in this life. And my faith tells me that while it's incredibly difficult to not have my son here, he had such a beautiful relationship of his own and came through it going to church as we did, to know he was baptized. I know where he is. And so even on my hardest day, I'm like, one of these days they'll put me in the dirt, and then this is the most hell I'll ever endure, and I'm going to be all right. So
I love that. And do you feel like painting helps you with that too? Like just being able to express things in a way, the art?
I do. It's odd because I don't think of myself necessarily as a artsy kind of person. I do like being a little bit wonky, kind of just crazy or dressing a little strange. So that part of an artist I've certainly embraced. But I don't look at a photograph and then go to paint it. I don't really look at, and I really only paint landscapes like Bob did on the TV show. I like to just see what unfolds on the canvas. And I think that's one thing that helps me share it with other people and give them courage and encouragement to do it, is that you can't make a mistake. Even if you don't get the colors the way you want it, put something over it. Paint a tree over it. I mean, just go for it. Just see what happens. Just if the worst thing that could happen is we're going to change it, that's pretty freeing. And so I've actually started to feed my paintings into ChatGPT to get kind of the counselor feedback of AI on what does it see in my paintings, because I share with it my notes from counseling sessions, and I really try to use it as a tool. And it's interesting to see its interpretation of, dealing with grief. And, over this past year, I have had some screaming fits heavenly towards my creator that with words that I'm not proud of and I wouldn't say again. But that's really where I was from a grief standpoint, or just sadness and anger and the things you go through. But to see that move into a place where, okay, I've settled some things. I've found solid footing for myself to stand on and to move forward in, and to be in a better position to help somebody who's going to go through it after me. So, and I like seeing that in my paintings, because it's not necessarily that I think they are improving, as in getting better. I suppose they are. Anything you practice, you're going to get better at. I have more confidence in what I'm trying to share with the student, so it just comes out of me easier, because I'm not worried about what's happening on the canvas. So it's a little hard for me to explain it, but I often am standing at the front of a class, and I like to cap the size at 14 or 18 at the most, because I don't want too big a group. I like to spend time with everybody a few times around, as we spend about 3 hours together doing it. And I'll look back at my painting at the front of the room and be like, I don't remember painting this, and then I'll go back up and be like, hey, where did I stop? And it's kind of funny, because it's fun to have the focus changing like that, because the painting actually improves, because I'm not so worried about how it turns out. Right. So it's kind of fun that the growth is still happening for me too.
It's all part of the creative process.
Well said.
Reshaping things. I know I do that all the time. So speaking of that and rearranging, that makes me want to delve into our next topic, which is cryptocurrency and mining cryptocurrency versus trading. Can you tell us just a little bit about what is cryptocurrency in a
Yes.
Not so detailed sense, like very narrow field would be great.
Absolutely. Crypto is really just a digital form value between two willing participants. I'd suggest people step back from saying, oh, what is crypto, to say, hold on a second. How much of our current financial system that you use every single day right now could you explain to somebody else? From paper money and coins to our debit and credit cards to our apps on our phones, how does all that happen? Because my background in banking, a lot of people think if you write me a check for something, that someone at the bank goes to somewhere where your stack of money is kept in the vault and moves some of your dollars over to my account because I cashed or deposited your check. Not even close to how that really works. Well, in the same respect, cryptocurrency is just basically a brand new digital version of currency. There's lots of different ways to participate or get involved with it and use it. So you got to start with just a spoonful at a time. I was in the mortgage business when the transition happened that Bitcoin, certainly the biggest and most well-known crypto these days, became approved by Fannie and Freddie, the two biggest underwriting rule makers for mortgages, said, yes, you can use Bitcoin as a source of funds for down payment, just like anything else. So we'd get 2 months of bank statement or asset statements. If they're going to liquidate it, we document that. It's just a paper trail like anything else. And that was huge. I mean, when it first came out and you'd see it on somebody's statement, you're like, oh gosh, this guy's got that drug dealer money. There's no way we can show this to underwriting.
Yeah.
And it was so poo-pooed by all the big banking world that I paid it zero attention. And then all of a sudden we could use it. And I was like, Fannie and Freddie don't change the rules like this. This is a big deal. Well, and I still didn't get it. I didn't get Bitcoin at that time. And I've always sort of been interested in it, but I never stuck my toe in the water. And then as crypto came forward, I'm like so many other people, you only hear about it's almost like penny stocks. It's like put $1,000 in here and you're going to make 10 million overnight. Probably not. That's really not how the world works too often. Well, those are polar opposites of the world of crypto. And so I think it's going to be the future of how commerce continues to go. You have young kids. My son is 21. I certainly think in their lifetimes, paper currency and coins go the way of the dodo bird. I mean, can you imagine our kids telling their grandkids, yeah, when I grew up, we used to get paid in paper money.
Right. Well, I mean, most places don't take, it's like hard to pay with cash sometimes.
Correct. Crypto is going to be the next iteration of that because of its speed, its efficiency. MasterCard and Visa don't like it because they make 3.3% on every swipe.
Yes, yes.
So it's just a big change. We should all learn something about it because it is going to happen whether we know it or whether we're engaged or not. Do you have to put any money in? Do you have to do it? No, you don't. Just start learning about it. It's not hard to find good information online and just educate yourself. Do I think everybody's going to go start reading financial stuff like that? They're not a lot of geeks. I don't even like reading it that much, and I'm a little bit of a geek. So,
Man, I love tax books. I seriously do. I do. There's so much fun. Oh yeah.
You probably find the punctuation mistakes and stuff in there.
I don't care about those. I'm like,
Gotcha.
that didn't ruin my day. I have been reviewed many times when I was in school as the worst writer someone has ever seen in their entire life. And I write in the vernacular, so to speak, like just how we talk. I'm not a punctuation geek at all. I leave that for the true professionals. That's another thing when you were talking about cryptocurrency and mortgages. I was thinking about, how if you were to try to show up and obtain a mortgage with mattress cash, it would be just as bad because they don't like to accept cash either. So you're saying Bitcoin is a little bit better than mattress cash nowadays?
Oh, for sure.
For mortgage?
Oh my goodness. I don't know that. I'm not sure that you could get mattress cash into a mortgage transaction these days.
I don't think so.
I mean, unless you have a history of systematic withdrawals, you're going to paper trail it one way or the other because the government's going to want to know where it comes from. And you can't take mattress cash and go drop all of it in the bank because you're going to have to explain that. So
yes. We've had this transition before. We've had this transition before, was my point.
Yes, exactly.
And we've changed things up. So as far as crypto mining, I'm going to just ask you a couple of questions. Can you tell us what would be trading for crypto versus mining for crypto? Because I saw that you used mining in your description when I was reading.
Big difference. You can invest in crypto just like you can invest in anything else. Gold, silver, foreign currency, stocks, mutual funds, name the spectrum. You go to any financial advisor, bank, gosh, you can get them tons of places. That's one way and the market is open 24/7 worldwide. I mean, that you can always trade. So it's a very active place to be. That does not appeal to me even a little bit. I have purchased some very small amounts of some crypto, but they are a couple that I believe have very long-term, useful, without getting too technical, it's basically like going to be the new payment systems like MasterCard and Visa, American Express, Discover are today. Well, that runs on a layer of technology. That's part of what crypto is. So a couple of those that I think are they're led well principled companies, and what they're doing is a good utility. So I mean, I'm talking a few $100s in each one. I'm not talking about much investment there at all. That's one end of the spectrum. Mining's the other end. And that's really where I've enjoyed the education that I've done for myself, because if you're involved in the mining piece of it, part of what crypto is at its core, when it is done correctly, it is a counterfeit proof store of value. So what's the number one counterfeited bill in the world today still? It's the $100 bill from the United States. Worldwide, counterfeit is a huge problem. Well, when you switch to crypto and it's done at that layer one blockchain technology, you can't fake it. If any of it gets one digit out, it breaks the chain. And so it's honest money. It's a way to trade, move value around the world much faster than wire transfers or tangible gold or whatever the unit of exchange is now. And so if you're on the mining end of that, again, Bitcoin's a great example of this. People were running computers in their garages, and people were like, what are you doing? What are you paying these thousands and thousands of dollars for these electric bills? Well, that's why it's mining. The electricity is the raw material. The computers are solving these incredible complicated algorithms to generate this blockchain. Again, there's a lot of techie stuff that my
You don't have
math
to get too
brain, no, I don't want to
complicated.
get in there because you can get lost in the weeds there. But every however often, they all run a little bit differently. If you're involved in the mining side because you own either the computing stuff that can do it, and that's one way to participate, or you've gotten involved in a crowdfunding where a company, a kind of pooling everybody's money to purchase the equipment and do the mining, well, then you participate in those daily rewards. So on the mining side of things, the mine I happen to be involved with, I get about 2 of the coins every day. And that mine will run for over 130 years. Well, assuming I've picked wisely and somewhere in the next 10, 15, 20 years, the company value goes up, its use, its adoption, it's being used as a currency, it's being used for other things, for technology to run on top of, and there's all kinds of utility to use for crypto. Well, those go way, way up in value. So again, let's use Bitcoin as the example. If you were mining in the early days of Bitcoin, getting 10, 20, 30 coins a day that were worth pennies at the time. I mean, all the videos still exist of, people spending hundreds of Bitcoin to get a Happy Meal or a combo meal at McDonald's. Now, even 10 Bitcoin would still be over $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were involved early on in helping develop it, helping it come online and generating, and you're getting those rewards and you held on to some of those, well, look at what it does for you financially. So I like seeing the revolution into the honest money system, because the world money system based on debt, we are screaming towards a cliff that is not too far away. I mean, you can read on our government's own website, pretty soon, it's before 2050, cannot print enough dollars. There's not enough paper. We don't have the printing capability in all of our mints to print enough money to pay the interest on our debt. That math is coming. We got to do something different. We got to get out of this leverage. The money system is damaged. It is broken, and there's not going to be an easy fix.
It is no longer the gold standard. Yes.
Not at all. Because that's one of my favorite examples, actually. If you took $100 to your bank and deposited it, what are they immediately allowed to do?
Use it.
Correct.
Loan
They're
money
going to loan it out at least 9 times over. So your $100 just became $900. Okay. They're going to loan it out. Let's say they loan me $100 of that, just keeping it $100 for easy math. I take that $100 and deposit it at my bank. What can they do?
The same.
900. So is this phantom dollars? Where did these come from? But that's the cycle that we're in. That's why it snowballs so quickly. And I mean, that's a basic, that's not a Dave Ramsey or a Robert Kiyosaki or any economist that you like explanation. But that's basic math. That is, you can't sustain that. That trajectory does not work. Bitcoin is proving that crypto is, and there's hundreds of other very good cryptos like Bitcoin. And then there's a lot of the meme coins and all the little kind of silly ones, in my opinion. But if people are learning about it and get some exposure and not spending money they can't afford to lose to learn that lesson, I think it's going to be the solution. It's going to be fun to see it happen.
I want to say if 1929 taught us anything, it's that speculation is never a good idea. Be educated.
Not for the entirety of your portfolio.
Yes.
For part of it, sure, but
the
not the part you're living on.
Part.
Right. Look at it. Part of it is a lotto win if it goes well, but not as a operating, can't be standard operating procedure.
Yes. And it's actually interesting because the Florida housing market foreshadowed that too. So, and it's kind of funny how Florida comes up over and over again in the different financial crises we've had in the country over the last 100 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about that, historically, I don't know if you know more about this, but back before like the Civil War and things, people used to print their own currencies. And what they would do is then skip town and you would be left with nothing or debt. So it's kind of a little bit about how the finance industry still works.
Yeah.
And
it's just the tool, instead of riding out on a horse.
The tools have changed.
The tools have just changed, right? The game hasn't, but the game has got to change because it won't work.
Yes. And so do you have any platforms that you like to use when you're learning about cryptocurrency that you would like to share, like a big name one or etc. I'm not going to say like specific companies.
Yeah, no, I'd rather
you
not do
work
that
with,
either.
Google or
Yes, I would start with Google.
YouTube.
I prefer AI at this point. I happen to like and have gotten a little bit of comfort using ChatGPT. I'm not saying that's the only one, so that is not a plug for ChatGPT by any means. And but asking, start with the basics and help me understand what crypto mining is, for example. You'll get a wonderful synopsis and resources to go then explore. That's about as much instruction as I want to give people because it is such a new category. There's no short answer. There isn't. It took me years to get good and understand the financial stuff I did for people at the bank. I didn't walk into that position and have the lending authority that I did or be able to do the investing I could do for people. And I was terrified to do it. Until I learned it and I got some experience, and then I could have a relationship with the client sitting across my desk and do what was right for them and lay out this plan and say, from my view, from our conversations, this is what I think you should do, and here's why. Well, you do that correctly for people, and then a couple of years into those kind of relationships, they call you and they don't come to the office anymore, and they say, "Hey, I'm thinking about this," and you're like, "No way! Don't you dare do that!" It's time, it's relationship, it's education, it's got to let it soak in.
Well, I think that's investing 101. There's always more to learn.
One of my favorite Dave Ramsey-isms is, if you can't explain it, you don't put your money in it.
I like that too. I think he paraphrased that from, who was it?
King Solomon, probably. Sounds pretty smart.
No, I want to say it might have been Einstein. If you can't explain it to a 5-year-old or something, then you don't know it well enough. Something of that nature.
Good. That's good.
We got you, Dave. Just kidding. And I do really like Dave Ramsey's advice too with debt. That's one thing that we experience a lot. I'm just curious because I like to ask a lot about student loan debt, experience that as being a major deterrent from getting a mortgage loan for people a lot of times, because you have that debt and then a lot of people with credit card debt. Is there any sage advice you would like to offer someone who maybe is not quite in college or their parent to say, maybe think of this and take a look at this before you or while you are making your plans?
I would love to. I'd like to say it with a bit of a warning because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings that may be listening to this, because I'm probably going to step on some people's toes with this, but I don't mind doing it because student loans stupidly taken out by me in school behind my parents' back to use to party and go on great spring break trips and pay my credit card bills, not for school. My parents paid for school. It took 17 years after school to pay those off. So I have been through this ringer. So my first piece of advice is college is not for everyone.
I totally agree with that.
It is not a right unless you have a true, real, known passion in your heart. Get some work experience. Join the Peace Corps. Join the military. Go spend 4 years in the military. You come out with a GI Bill. They'll pay for your school. Get some life experience. I certainly didn't know as a 17-year-old what I wanted to do or be. I'm probably one that shouldn't have gone to college. I was a great student in high school. I mean, I kind of downplay it, but I didn't even have to study, and I was top 10% of my class, and I went to a big high school. Put in a little effort here and there and went to a few honors classes. I did well on the SAT and ACT, aced the ASVAB. I mean, but I didn't want to go to school. Insight, I wish I'd have gone to work with my buddy and his dad who had a tree business. I was a swimmer in high school. I was big and strong. Man, that would have been a great time to be a young man building a business instead of digging myself a financial pit that was going to take 15, 20 years to swim out of. So that's my first thing. College is not a right, and everybody doesn't need to go. The second thing is, if you're not paying for it, you can't afford it. Don't go. There's a cheaper option to do it online at a 2-year school first. Nobody ever cared other than sports where I got my degree from. Ever.
Right.
Never. Not once did it do that. Now, are there some degrees I think that are more important? Yeah, sure. Those are few. There's not a lot of those. There's nothing wrong with a student working. How many hours in a week? 68? How many classes you taken? Okay. What else you doing?
I like that one too, because I worked the whole time I was in school.
Me too. My parents didn't give me enough party and beer money, so I had to do something. So those are a couple of things. And I mean, I hate to sound so hard line about it, but if you can't pay for it as you're doing it, it's not for you. Not yet. Let that make you mad. Go work your butt off while you're in high school. Save money. Apply for all those scholarships. There's tons of them out there.
And there's nothing wrong with state schools either. I always say that because we have some really great scholarships here in Florida.
Indeed. Indeed.
That you can use, which is really helpful. I don't have student loan debt, but that's why I always talk about it, because I'm like, okay, look, I have been able to buy houses. I have been able to do this.
Well, and that's the biggest thing, because that to me, that's the other side of the question you asked. Because if that person's already in debt or they're a couple years into school, okay, too late for me to make that decision. What do I do now? Well, start changing it now, because if you're going to come out of school and you've got a decent job, decent income, you're going to want to buy a house. Well, if your student loan debt is a certain balance, there's going to be a calculation whether you have a payment or not. Yes, there are some little gimmicky ways to squeeze that into the rules, but if that's what your mortgage professional is doing to you, they are handing you an anchor to swim the rest of this race with. They are not doing you a favor. They should be looking at you as an adult across the table and say, you got to fix this student loan stuff before I'm going to do this for you. I know you're probably going to go down the street and get the mortgage from somebody else. Fine. My conscience is the one I've got to sleep with tonight and look at in the morning. I'm not doing this to you. Because if you've got a deferred student loan payment of $1,000 a month, and kids, young folks these days, we've trained them to have a short attention span. They see their parents and their grandparents living in this house that's so beautiful, but they didn't see what the grandparents did to get to that house.
Right.
They scrimped and worked their butts off. They bought a tiny little shoebox of a house and started their family there and built a little bit of equity and sold it and moved on. However, they want the big one. So they're going to go get the gimmicky, good Lord, what's an FHA loan you can get now? Over $700,000?
Yes, yes.
Are you nuts? You only 3.5%, $700,000?
Don't have anything happen, because then you will be in big trouble. Yes.
And car payments, and it all starts.
It starts
student loans.
When you are not smart enough
our kids
to take a loan. Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. And then this nonsense of the government, us, the taxpayers, paying off these student loans. What? Nobody was coerced to take a student loan. Why on earth do you think somebody else should pay your bill?
Right.
I mean, that is disgusting to me. That just.
I could see capping them from ballooning a little bit, because they get huge balances after a while, some of them.
Then get rid of the deferred interest. I'm sorry, that dog doesn't hunt for me. That's the lender, the government, and the signee on the loan.
They should be in trouble too, the lender. And so, I mean, I sold a lot of beer to pay for my college. I paid for it on no interest credit cards and had those babies paid off before I paid interest.
Good.
You know, like, there are ways to do it if you have to, and go write some papers to get an extra couple grand here and there.
Work more, take fewer classes. There are such user-friendly schedules online. My goodness.
And I will say I went back to school later in life, close to 30, and I felt I got a better experience on my education. And also I didn't pay for it, which is great, you know? So those are things you can think of.
My oldest son's a great example. I tell
all of the parents that, please educate your children on this. Your older son, what did he do?
Well, he was a virtual student since 8th grade. He wanted to try it. We talked about it all the way, and he's 21 now. So in 8th grade, it was a good test, because he was like, well, if we wanted to go back to school, high school is a great start at 9th grade. And he grew up a soccer player, and he was really very, very good, a good soccer player. And as a junior in high school, still being a Florida virtual student, so he did school at home, but you're allowed to participate in athletics. So he played 4 years of varsity soccer as a freshman all the way through. And one day after soccer practice, his junior year, he's walking to his car, was my mom and dad's old Honda Accord, paid for, gifted to him. That's what he drove. So he wasn't walking to a fancy car. Walked past football practice. One of the coaches was there in a golf cart, and he said, hey, Coach, I think I'm going to come out and try and kick for you next season. I play soccer for Coach Tom now. And he goes, well, how about you kick that ball for me right now? Let me see what you got. About 15 minutes later, the head coach called and said, hey, Mr. Willcox, this is Coach Farmer. Can Grandin play the rest of the football season with us? So they were over halfway through that season. So his junior and then senior season He played on the football team as well. He got a full ride to college to play college football.
That's amazing.
Super smart kid. Classroom stuff didn't appeal to him. He really wasn't interested in leaving town to go to school. So just being good at athletics and stepping out into something he wanted to do the math. He went from here in Florida to a school in Virginia. He's transferred, and through our life tragedies, he's currently using his red shirt. So his school's been interrupted. A school in Virginia, it would have cost us about $30,000 a year to send him there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a $120,000 check handed to him to go to school there. That's another way to do it without student loans.
Yes.
He has no debt. He works. He's had a part-time job since he was in high school. I mean, he's working his butt off right now. I mean, just don't take the easy way. That's just, man.
It always comes back and bites you.
It is. Ain't no free ride.
That is so true. It'll kick you to the curb every time.
Quickly.
Especially when you don't want it to. I love that advice and I love that story. It's a great testament to encourage all of us parents to be a little creative when it comes to education for our older kids because, there's so many jobs out there and a lot of them will pay for your education. If it's a trade type job, those pay really well. And we're going to be needing a lot of people in the sectors for energy production pretty soon if we're going to keep doing more AI things and et cetera. It's only going to keep growing.
One of my favorite things I saw happening before I left the mortgage world was how much in the healthcare world, as part of a retaining good employees package, they will pay for additional schooling.
Mm-hmm.
So I had several young couples that were each some type of nurse or another. And forgive me, I do not know all the initials, and there's so many specialized things that that can apply. But one of my favorites was this couple. They'd met being travel nurses, so they were making good money. They didn't have any bills on the road working for hospitals like that. They met. They wanted to find a location, start their family, and that sort of thing. Didn't have kids yet. They both got, I don't remember, there was 2 degrees. I don't know if master, and then whatever it was, they were making probably, I think it was 85 or 90,000 each when they took positions at the local place. They finished those programs. Each of them were then making over 200.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know about you, but no debt, smart head on your shoulders, and your household making $500,000 a year. That's a pretty cool place to start adding other investments in real estate or grow your family if you're going to have children. At that kind of income, the whole world is different. I mean, you're top 1% of the world income.
Mm-hmm.
And guess how much they paid for it? They worked their butts off on the first track that we've described. No debt, and then got the employer to pay for their next bump up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well done, well done. That's what should be that should be the recruiting poster, not just sign here and free money forever. Come on.
Yes. Well, yes. And then they make you fill out the federal student financial aid form, whether or not you're using it. And it pops up and they're like, free money. It's not free.
Mm-mm.
So that was some really great advice. I love that. I'm a big supporter of entrepreneurship too. Like I think it's fun. It's really adventurous in a way, not when it goes south, because that does happen.
It's those falls, though, that make the best lessons, unfortunately.
But darn it, you learn a lot. You learn a lot, and it hurts, and you keep going anyway. And I think that's a good theme for our whole conversation. You fall, it hurts, and you keep going anyway. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It has been a pleasure getting to know you and learning about Bob Ross and having a highlight into cryptocurrency and student loan debt strategies. And I like to ask at the end of my show, is there anything that you are really passionate about that you would share to parents who have like younger kids at home that would just be a really great motivator for them, or a strategy that you used, or something heartfelt?
It's a powerful, powerful question. I think I could just boil it down to this: is whatever your circumstance is, when those days come that are just heavier than you think you can bear, or it's just, going, crazy. You're not alone. None of us are. None of us have all the answers. Some of us have ridden around the sun a few more times, so we've fallen and bumped our heads a few more times, so we may be aware of some pitfalls. But if you're not plugged into a civic organization or a faith-based organization or have some kind of connection like that, find one. Of course, I would recommend a local church. I think that's a wise place to start. I understand that doesn't appeal to everybody, but we need each other. We need that connection, especially on those days where you just need somebody to sit with you. You just need somebody that can say, I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I may not be able to fix it, but I'll walk through it with you. And, I think that could apply to any situation, whether it's craziness with young kids in a young chaotic household and the stress of bills and all the moving logistics and the sports and the dance and the music and the school. I get it.
Right.
I've lived it. I made a lot of mistakes during it. You're just not alone. You can reach out. You'd be shocked at who'd be willing to help you if you just ask.
That's so true. I think that's an important thing. Just ask. Yes, you may get a couple of, or we'll schedule this some other time, but you'll get a lot of yeses too.
Absolutely.
So sell yourself on that. It's a sales technique. Go for the no. Ask a lot of people. Someone will be there for you.
Yeah. It's funny though, that the times I've asked, I don't even remember somebody saying no.
Same.
To share you a quick, I get to go be with a group of guys in a recovery center an hour a week. And once a month we take a guest speaker in. And I've known somebody here locally my entire life that I've been in Marion County now for 20 years and known who he was. And we've had a few interactions. Didn't know each other well, but I was certainly aware of who he was. And not that he's an intimidating person, but people in authority positions and success and things like that, I put him on sort of pedestals, and he happened to be sitting behind me at an event we were both at. I turned around and introduced myself. He says, we've met before. And I said, yes, sir, we have. I shared with him for 2 seconds that group of guys I go see. And I said, would that be something you'd be willing to use? He just says, I'd love to. He hands me his cell phone and says, put your info in there so I'll know it's you when you text me. I texted him, gave him the date. He said, yes, it was the best meeting we've had for those guys.
That's wonderful.
And all I did was ask him. And he, such a gracious and wonderful human being. I got to know him a lot better through that. And it's just because I asked him. And he loved doing it. And he thanked me for asking him. And I was terrified to ask him. So it's like, Dan, that issue was with me. That had nothing to do with him. That was me. Just ask.
I know what that's like because I called you up out of the blue and didn't know you.
That's right.
And I do that frequently. Just I find people and I feel like, I don't know, led to them, and it has worked out. A lot of times, all the interviews I've done have been just awesome and with awesome people. And it has been such a pleasure speaking with you.
I've loved doing it. I'm so glad we've connected.
Yes, I'm very grateful. And thank you for joining me.